Well, today is May 8th, 2020. This is David Strittmatter conducting an interview for the Kent State Guardsman Oral History Project. I have a guest with me today. So what is your name and where are you from?
Hi, David. My name is Mike Peters. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and I moved to Durham, North Carolina in 1979. So I've been here a little over 40 years now.
And how long and in what capacity did you serve in the Ohio National Guard?
I served for 6 years as a reservist and never got anywhere. I didn't go out of the country to serve, but I was called up for the Akron trucker strike, which led into Kent State. And then I was also called up for 2 tornadoes, the most famous being the Xenia tornado in '74.
And why did you join the Guard?
Okay, I didn't want to go to Vietnam. And our president at the time, Nixon, said he was not going to send the Guard over there. So I joined the Guard immediately after graduating from college in '68. I graduated around May 1st of '68, and I joined the Guard May, I think it was 20th of '68. And then I moved. I had worked down in Dayton, Ohio after college for a year, and then I moved up to Cleveland, my original hometown, and I transferred to the National Guard up there in Lakewood, Ohio, where I spent about the last 5 years.
And looking back, how do you view your time, your years in the Ohio Army National Guard?
How do I view them? Well, I feel good that I actually, I wasn't a deserter or a conscientious objector. I did my time, and we did some good when we were activated. We helped. Like I said, when I was in the I had about a month or two left in my 6 years, and the Xenia tornado happened, and they activated most of the troops in Ohio, and we went down there and just stood guard because there was a lot of looting going on. It destroyed 90% of the town, but there were still looters coming in for that 10%. So we just stood guard over there, and I felt good about doing that. And
Well, how was it you were deployed to Kent in May of 1970?
we were called up along with several other units because the Teamsters strike, the Akron truckers, were on strike for better wages. And what was happening is there was what they call scabs. There were drivers that were not on strike that were driving their trucks. Some of the Teamsters were going to the bridges, and there were occasions where trucks were shot at with guns. So that's why we were activated. I believe it was April 30th of '68. There were probably thousands of National Guard activated that day and we patrolled bridges to make sure there were no shooters at the drivers.
And what are your memories of arriving into Kent?
That's a good one there, because we spent, I think it was 3 days, and we didn't do many patrols in Akron. And we were staying at the Akron-Canton airport, which was about a half an hour from each city. When we got, I still remember our captain, our commanding officer, he came in and announced that there had been shootings of students and guardsmen. The news got it wrong, I guess. And we just grabbed our gear, jumped in the truck, and we were in Kent probably a little over half an hour. And I just remember the smell of tear gas. And we just sat along the road and watched as the students were cleared out of the university. It was as close to war as I wanted to get. There were obviously the shootings were over by then. The shootings were over in a matter of seconds, but it was kind of a scary time. And then after that, we got an order to, it was basically martial law. We had to keep people from coming into the university and into the downtown Kent was quarantined from a certain time of day, I guess from dark to dusk, where we had to guard the roads and keep cars and pedestrians out. So it was kind of a scary time. And we didn't really know a lot what was happening. We still had thought there were guards that were killed and didn't know if, people were still hiding in the bushes or what. But it was all over, like I said, in a matter of minutes, and there was no other shooting after that.
At what point did you realize that the Guardsmen had not been shot, that had just been student protesters?
I don't think we ever got like an official word from our leaders. I think we just heard it. There were kids that had radios, and we were listening to some of the news media, and they kept adjusting what they were reporting. And they said they had confirmed there were 4 dead and I can't remember, 19 injured or something, but that there were no guards shot at that time.
Do you recall if the National Guard issued any sort of instructions to its members in the days after the Kent State shooting?
Like as far as what to say or anything,
or what not to say? Yeah.
No, I don't know if that happened with the units that were there earlier. I had said, I think all these Northeast Ohio Guardsmen were there for at least 3 days before Kent. They were in the Akron-Canton airport with me. And then they took about half the troops a couple days earlier. And then we were called after the action was ever there. That first unit may have been told something. I don't know that. We weren't. We were just given commands like we needed to patrol the streets. We took over the dorms. We slept in the dorms for 3 days. And then we put on night patrols to make sure there were, no activities going on behind the scenes.
Have your feelings about the Kent State shootings changed or evolved over the years since it's happened?
Well, I think maybe there's more clarity with reading the stories. I didn't know, it was kind of a crisis period in my life. I had just graduated college. I joined the Guard. I had hair down to here, below my ears, but that didn't do it in the Guard. So us guys with long hair would get together and pin our hair up with bobby pins and wear the longest cap you could wear. So we were kind of protesting right then, even though we were in the Guard. I had allegiance to the students and I had allegiance to the Guard too. I could see both sides. And when we had heard about the shooting, we had heard that there might have been a shot fired at the Guard or rocks thrown and all this. After reading some of the reports, I don't think that ever happened. And, I don't see how they feared for their lives if they had rifles and, they had tear gas at their disposal. So I guess I was more, after years gone by, I was more sympathetic to the students than I had been when it first happened, because I had felt the students were the aggressors at the time in '68.
In the years after the Kent State shooting, has your association with the Guard led to any special treatment, either personally or professionally?
For
Or how
the
were you
service.
treated? How were you treated when people found out that you were a member of the Guard, you know, at the in Ohio, you know, and in Kent, when you know, shortly after the shooting?
Yeah, I know. I had to explain I wasn't on the front lines. People were pretty sympathetic. My friends, knew what I was going through. I don't think, I was ever hated for it or looked upon with any anger. No, I can't say that, that happened.
Yeah. Are you still in touch with any of the other Guardsmen that you served with?
No, I lost touch really with everybody. I don't know. It when I got into the Guard, I was one of the oldest folks to sign up. I think I was 22 when I got out of college. And a lot of I call them kids in the Guard, there were a lot of high schoolers, and they got out while I was still in there. I didn't get out till I was about 26 then. So, or no, 28. So a lot of these guys had gotten out, and by the time I retired, there was really nobody that no friends that had gone with me through any of these crises here. So I really didn't develop any long-term friendships.
How often have you spoken about your about being in Kent just hours after the shooting of May 1970?
Well, it's different. When this 50th anniversary is coming up, my brothers were sending me the articles from the Plain Dealer, and some of my old friends that are still in Cleveland talk to me about it. It's kind of like the memories come to the forefront there. And I don't know, I also, did a lot of research, a lot of reading on my own, trying to get the bits and pieces in here. And I don't know, it hit me hard. The 50th I guess the 25th came and went and I didn't go through this. There's something about the 50th here, and seeing how many people like yourself were interested in, documenting some of maybe the backstories or something to this.
Well, you were in the National Guard for 4 years after the Kent State shooting.
Correct.
When you would go to drill every month or over the summer, these trials are ongoing. The investigation
Right.
is ongoing. I mean, what are your memories of being an Ohio National Guard member when all of these things all these proceedings are going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess the directives there, we went through some training classes. Like, they didn't really say what was done was wrong, but they emphasized, you got your rifle and you got your live ammunition, and here's when you really need to use these things. That, for instance, they said more tear gas might have been more appropriate then. Rifles with blanks or what, I don't know, rubberized rounds might have been a better choice back then. That That they were trying to emphasize that the Guard is not a hometown fighting unit, or if you will. We were there to keep the peace, enforce the law by our presence and not by our ammunition.
In those 4 years that you were in the Guard, even after the shootings, I mean, do you recall any sentiment, feelings, either positive or negative, kind of towards those Guardsmen that were on the front lines on the Kent State campus?
Yeah, and I think this wasn't coming down. This was sentiment at our troop level, okay? Excuse me. That we knew what we went through sitting around in that, cold, dark hangar, sleeping on sleeping bags on a cement floor for 3 days, bored out of our mind. And then all of a sudden it's like there's a riot and people have been shot. To me, I don't think there was enough made as far as the sentiment of that. All of us in our unit, my friends there, we would talk about, nobody ever played that angle up, that these guys, weren't some kind of militia that were, out like the police force or something daily. I mean, we were sitting around. I'll digress just for a short second, if I could. One guy had a TV in the airplane hangar, and we were betting on things like the dating game, who the girl would pick as her date. We were throwing $5 in a pot or something. I mean, it was just absolute boredom for 3 days and uncomfortable sitting on a cement floor or laying on it. And all of a sudden they says, boom, let's get your gear. We're going basically to war. I mean, that's how it felt. They said students and guardsmen had been killed. I think there was a lot of psychological things there. I can't imagine myself in that place, because the absolute boredom, I think, created an atmosphere that some people were ready to do something, even if it was wrong, if that makes sense. It's like, I want to get into some action. And there were some people in my unit that would have pulled the trigger. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just talking to them there, and another backstories, there was some, I don't know if you want to call it animosity, but there was a majority of the guards then that were not college graduates. And they were looking at the college kids as college punks or whatever. They were getting deferred and all that. And there was a lot of that going on, that, some of these high school kids, I mean, they were right out of high school. They're probably 18, 19, 20. They just, I don't know, they didn't care for the college kids, and, the burning of the ROTC building and all that. It's like, come on, just go to school.
Well, do you think that kind of that often repeated narrative of the Kent State shootings, that it's, has this narrative been fair to the National Guard units?
Well, the bottom line is, like I said, the Guard should have never fired. I think that shouldn't go away. But I think there should have been some, I don't know, it's like arguing for somebody, a killer, because they are, they have some kind of mental condition or whatever. I'm not saying these people had mental conditions, but I'm saying nobody described what happened to the days before this activity. And I just think it's, it's worth saying, not to justify what they did, but just to say that could have contributed to their anxiety or whatever that they were supposedly going through.
Have you ever returned to Kent or the Kent State campus in the intervening 50 years?
I've driven by there. I go to Cleveland a couple times a year, see my family, and we stop. I've driven through Kent. I've driven, stopped at other sites, but it's changed a whole lot. I've not really stopped and talked to anybody, but I know exactly where it is. I'll never forget it. Yeah.
How often have reporters asked you about your touch point here with with Kent State in May of 1970?
This is the first time I've been approached to tell a story. I plan on writing something soon, but I never really been interviewed. Now, in fact, when we were there in Kent, that brings up a point that they told us absolutely don't talk to anybody, no reporters, because you can imagine how many news media there were in Kent too. There was, if you weren't with the news media or the Guard, you weren't in Kent. There were no students, and they weren't allowing some of the people back in or to travel through the city. So yeah, they were trying to get stories, but the Guard was telling us, no, don't. They were going to have their own media interface person.
Well, is there anything else that you would want to say on camera here? Perhaps a question that I haven't asked?
Well, there was, and I was trying to research this too. Back then, there was a group called the Weathermen, and they were famous for stirring up trouble on college campuses, anti-war thing. I mean, I was against the war myself, especially when they invaded a neutral country like Cambodia, but I didn't go, torch a building or anything. I didn't agree with it. But from what I can read, these weathermen stirred up. It was a little later, I think there was an incident at Jackson State or something. And there had been other colleges where they would go and try to incite these students to go ahead, like, let's burn the ROTC building. That maybe on their own, the students wouldn't have done that. I don't know. I haven't really found enough reading on that. But my thought is, what I remember from those times is they played an instrumental part in stirring up that story or that sentiment, the anti-war and anti-National Guard sentiment at that time. And I can't find that either, that was another kind of backstory or something. And I had one other thing they never put in the news. What was the ROTC building there? It's not on every campus. Kent State was a land grant college, and I went to University of Dayton, which was also a land grant college. And I don't know the exact details, but the government gave the college either a discount or free land or whatever if they would mandate 2 years of ROTC for every male. So, there were kids that were in the students when I was a student at Dayton that were saying, why do we need to go to National Guard? Well, why do we need to take ROTC? Well, if you don't like that, go somewhere else. I mean, that was part of the school. And I think that's what happened at Kent too. Some of the kids just said, why do we need to go to ROTC? Why do we need an ROTC building? It was part of the deal. It was a land grant college. So again, not justifying anything, but yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to ramble so much, but yeah.